John Boehner stunned Washington Friday, announcing he'll step down as Speaker and leave Congress in a month. The news raises questions about whether a government shutdown will now be avoided and where House Republicans go from here. Joining me now, two GOP congressmen at the center of the debate. Tom Cole, a member of Boehner's leadership team, and Mick Mulvaney, a founder of the Freedom Caucus, which has been sharply critical of Boehner. Gentlemen, welcome to Fox News Sunday.
Good to be with you.
Let's start with how Speaker Boehner described his decision to step down. Here it is.
It's become clear to me that this prolonged leadership turmoil would do irreparable harm to the institution.
Congressman Mulvaney, what was wrong with Boehner as Speaker, and did your hardline faction of House Republicans, did you force him out?
Well, what was wrong? We stopped being a co-equal branch of government. I had a farmer come into my office a couple weeks ago and tell a story about how he had to get down on his knees and beg an EPA regulator regarding some things to do with farm ponds. That's sad in a country where a farmer has to come in and do that kind of stuff. Congress used to be able to fight back against that. We used to use the power of the purse to help folks like that against an overreaching administration. We've stopped. We don't use the power of the purse anymore. The Senate uses the filibuster instead of the power of the purse. And yeah, it had to change. It absolutely had to change. And
did you force him out, you and your hardline colleagues?
I think the 72% of Republican primary voters who didn't approve of his job probably forced him out more than anything.
Congressman Cole, your response to that?
Well, first of all, in terms of the EPA, it's just not true. The budget's been cut by 21%. They're operating at 1989 staffing levels. So the power of the purse has been used, and there are restrictions as to what they can do. In terms of the larger question on the Speaker, look, he's had to fight for 4 years with a Democratic president, most of the time with a Democratic Senate. Yet during that time, he's brought the deficit down by over $1 trillion. He made almost all the Bush tax cuts permanent. He got the first real entitlement reform for Medicare and Medicaid. In divided government, that's an extraordinary range of accomplishments. The sad thing is we have a lot of Republicans honestly telling Republican voters the problem up here are Republicans. The problem up here is Barack Obama and the Democrats, and we focus on that, we can get something done.
Let me ask you to pick up on that and respond to it, if you will. And look, I mean, the fact is, no matter what you did in the House, there were enough. First of all, there was a Democratic majority in the Senate, and then there are now enough to sustain a filibuster, and you do have Barack Obama as president. What realistically could he have done more?
Sure, but we told people, give us the Senate and things would be different. We told them back in 2010, give us the House, things would be different. And things are not that different. We're paying more attention to worrying about polls and who's getting blamed for a shutdown, or more attention to the filibuster rules in the Senate than actually helping people and doing what we promised we would do. We are fighting a war against an administration using 1994 tools when administrations used to go through the legislative branch to enact their agenda. This administration goes around. They've gone around on immigration, they've gone around on Iran, they're going to go around on climate change, and unless we are able to pass legislation out of the House and the Senate, we will no longer be an effective check against the executive branch. So it is different.
It's simply not the case. I mean, the reality is, again, presidents do have authority to make agreements or to run the executive branch. But again, if you actually look at things like making the Bush tax cuts permanent, bringing down the deficit by $1 trillion, having real entitlement reform, it's a pretty remarkable record of accomplishment. Engaging in tactics like
why did he lose the confidence of Mick Mulvaney and dozens of members of House Republicans?
I think they have to answer that themselves. But you know, what I would argue is, what have you done that's accomplished anything? The last time we followed these kind of tactics on the government shutdown, October of 2013, we lost. We didn't win. And we certainly didn't repeal Obamacare. So to be successful, go win some elections. Actually, Jeb Bush had it exactly right in the earlier ceremony. You get a president. We don't appropriate money to Planned Parenthood. Presidents appoint secretaries that give money to Planned Parenthood.
Okay. The question now is, what happens when the budget runs out at midnight on Wednesday? And the conventional wisdom in the wake of Boehner stepping down is that you're going to pass a continuing resolution without defunding Planned Parenthood and kick the can down the road until December, but that the government won't shut down and you won't stop Planned Parenthood. Congressman Mulvaney, is that the way it's going to come down?
I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that's been the plan from the very beginning. One of the reasons I think, and Tom and I have had this conversation before, that we fared so poorly 2 years ago is that our leadership simply didn't believe it. They got themselves backed into a shutdown, but they never believed it. We used to go to conference and they would tell us, now remember, the message here is that the Senate shut down, not us. And then the next week, John's on late night television blaming his own conference, his own Republicans for doing it. So we didn't believe it. We don't believe it now. My guess is we will cut a deal with Democrats, or at least some Republicans will, in order to keep the government open next week.
First of all, look, on Planned Parenthood, there's no money in the short-term CR for Planned Parenthood. 90% of their money comes from Medicaid, not from anything we're going to do. And the remainder is awarded on what are called grants. They're all done in about April. There's none left to do this year, literally none. So the idea that we're fighting over money for Planned Parenthood is a canard. It's just not true.
Congressman Cole, let me pick up on this with you, because there is some speculation now that with Boehner on his way out, he's going to be Speaker, but only for a month more, and frankly, the Mick Mulvaneys of the world don't have any control over him anymore. The argument is that not only will he cut a deal to extend a CR, but that he may also do some other things that he's been constrained on, like raise the debt limit, like extend the Export-Import Bank, like pass a highway bill. Is he going to do some of that stuff, and would you support that?
It depends on the nature of the deal, always. You know, if you can do what Paul Ryan wants to do on highways, and that is couple it with tax reform that actually puts money in the system, absolutely I would support that. Ex-Im Bank, we just disagree. I think, and frankly, many House Republicans.
But how would you feel if John Boehner now works with Democrats, because that's who he's going to need to pass some of these things that the conservative hardliners would...
Anything you want to get done in this period, as long as the president is a Democrat, as long as Democrats have a filibuster, control in the Senate, everything is going to have to be some sort of compromise. Or you can do nothing. We can just simply wait and hope we win the next election.
Congressman Mulvaney, is this the surrender caucus?
That's not what we heard during the last election cycle, was it? Give us control of the Senate and things will be different. Give us control of the House and things will be different.
Things are different.
No, we didn't hear it from you, but we did hear it from Mitch McConnell.
Well,
we have overpromised and underdelivered, and that is why I think you see such disaffection amongst the base for the establishment candidates. Is the reason the outsiders are gaining, I think, 65%.
We live in an era of divided government and in a system of checks and balances. And if you don't understand that and you don't...
And I fully understand we have stopped being a check and balance.
I want to move this on to, because Congressman calls some Republican presidential candidates celebrated Boehner's resignation. Here's Senator Ted Cruz.
Yesterday, John Boehner was Speaker of the House. You all come to town and somehow that changes.
Congressman, what do you think of, and Cruz isn't the only one, Republican presidential candidates campaigning against GOP leaders, whether it's Boehner or McConnell, in Congress?
Classless and tasteless and counterproductive. This is a guy that for 25 years has a distinguished record in the House.
You're talking about Boehner.
I'm talking about Boehner, certainly not talking about Senator Cruz. Again, who got real tax cuts, real spending reductions, real entitlement reform in divided government. And I would stack his record of accomplishment up against any of these people that are being critical of him. What have they done? Nothing. And they've been in the Senate for a few years, by the way. So it's pretty easy to defend John Boehner. I think it's pretty hard to defend remarks like we just heard.
Congressman?
If you add up the 5 outsiders, Trump, Fiorina, Carson, Paul, and Cruz in South Carolina, I think right now they're polling about 65%. Tom,
but do you defend those remarks?
I don't defend the personal attacks.
Yeah,
I don't. This was never about personalities, and it's not just Ted Cruz. Carly Fiorina last week said that if we didn't have a team in place that could defund Planned Parenthood, we should get new leadership. So this is pervasive in the party, and I think to simply ignore it and say, well, y'all don't understand the filibuster rule, is dismissing huge pieces of our base, and I think wrongly so.
All right. Let's get to the next issue, because the king is dead. Long live the king. And the question now in Washington is who's going to replace John Boehner. Congressman Cole, you were quoted, I think on Friday, as saying, look, there's going to be a quick vote. It's going to be next Thursday, October 1st, and we're going to move along on this. But now some House Republicans, including Peter Roskam, are saying, no, let's slow down. Let's have a meeting of the caucus. Let's discuss things. First of all, timing. Secondly, how likely is it that the #2 man, Kevin McCarthy, the majority leader, will move up and become Speaker?
Well, let me answer him in reverse. I don't think there's much doubt Kevin will be the next Speaker of the House, and he should be. Frankly, he's had a brilliant career, is well positioned. In terms of the timing of the vote, to me, quicker's better. You know, why do you want to have a long, drawn-out family drama? It's not as if we don't know all the players here that are running. It's not as if we don't know the issues. And I don't think there's a lot to be gained by you know, dragging it out.
Congressman Mulvaney, will McCarthy be the Speaker? And is there going to be a change? How many of your members of the harder line conservatives do you think that some of them will take some of the top positions?
Well, I think it's fair to say that Kevin has the inside track for the position, being our leader and so forth. I think the important question is, will things change? Will they change for the better, or we simply replace Mr. Boehner with somebody else who will do the same thing? So the question, I think, becomes more one of style, of substance than of style. I do think that Kevin is a much more ground-up instead of top-down type of leader, but again, that's the reason we have elections.
Congressman Mulvaney, Congressman Cole, thank you both. Thanks for coming in today, and of course, we'll stay on top of this leadership fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll bring in our Sunday group to discuss what the shakeup means for the GOP. Plus, what would you like to ask the panel about Boehner's resignation and whether Republicans should vote to defund Planned Parenthood, even if it means a government shutdown? Just go to Facebook or Twitter @Fox News Sunday, and we may use your question on the air.